Red Cloud and his party of roughly 25 Lakota went to Washington to express his unhappiness with the administration's policies in the aftermath of the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. As a result of that treaty, the Lakota were expected to live on what was called the Great Sioux Reservation, which encompasses much of what is today South Dakota. The Lakota were also allowed to hunt on what was known as the unceded territory in Montana, Wyoming, and Nebraska. The Fort Laramie Treaty was part of the Grant administration's peace policy, an attempt to limit sources of conflict between Americans and indigenous peoples. The problem was that the Grant administration wanted the Lakota to live near government agencies along the Missouri River. This would make it easier to supply them with goods and keep them away from white settlers who might choose to settle in Wyoming or Montana. Red Cloud had no intention of moving to the Missouri River, a source of disease and whiskey drinking, so he went to D.C. to tell Grant he wished to hunt and roam in Wyoming and Montana near Fort Laramie. He also did not wish to farm any time in the future. The Missouri River was now viewed quite negatively by Lakota chiefs. The whiskey trade had become an especially serious problem. Spotted Tail told the government, "To us, whiskey is death." Upon arriving in D.C. in June 1870, the Lakota, of course, attended the White House dinner. The Grant administration hoped they would come away awed by the wealth and largesse on display. But that wasn't quite the case. In meetings after the dinner, the Lakota expressed serious grievances about how they were being treated out west. At one meeting, on the day after the White House dinner, Red Cloud eloquently said that the Great Father, a term they used for the President of the United States, had left him nothing but an island to live on, adding, "Our nation is melting away like the snow on the side of the hills where the sun is warm, while your people are like blades of grass in the spring when the summer is coming. I don't want to see the white people making roads in our country." When a cabinet official asked Red Cloud and his people to be more peaceful on the frontier, he said, "I didn't ask that the whites should go through my country, killing game, and it is the Great Father's fault. You are the people who should keep the peace." Another meeting with Red Cloud and the administration cabinet officials went very badly. Red Cloud delivered a combative opening statement telling his listeners that it was the Great Father who started the conflict by sending troops to his country and building roads there. In response, the Secretary of the Interior said that the Fort Laramie Treaty allowed the United States government to build railroads through Lakota territory. At this moment, the Secretary brought out a map to show Red Cloud his land under the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. Despite having signed the treaty, Red Cloud responded, "This is the first time I have heard of such a treaty. I have never heard of it and do not mean to follow it. I want to know who was the interpreter who interpreted these things to Indians." Claiming that the interpreter must have misled him, Red Cloud refused to take a copy of the treaty, saying, "It is all lies." With the meeting concluded, Red Cloud and his party returned to their hotel, angry and demoralized. A few Indians in the party threatened to commit suicide as a result of the failed negotiations. The administration's peace policy, at least in relation to the Lakota, appeared to lie in ruins. The Grant administration moved quickly to defuse the tense situation, and they made some meaningful concessions. First, they said that Red Cloud would not have to go to the Missouri River to trade and receive his annuity goods. Secondly, they said that he could continue to hunt and roam in Wyoming and Montana and what was known as the unceded territories. And finally, they promised that they would get him trusted partners to trade with at Fort Laramie. All in all, it marked a significant victory for Red Cloud. Before returning home, Red Cloud and his party went up to New York City for a brief visit. And while there, he was invited to deliver a speech at the Great Hall of the Cooper Union, the same place where Abraham Lincoln had famously spoken 10 years previously. 5,000 people attended his talk. Fully one half the audience, the New York Tribune reported, were ladies, and the waving of handkerchiefs, fluttering of fans, and nodding of gay flowers from countless bonnets enlivened the scene. Red Cloud wore blue army pants, moccasins, and a white dress shirt as he prepared to deliver his remarks. He gathered a blanket around his shoulders and then pointed to the heavens and said, "My brothers and friends who are here before me today, the Almighty has made us all, and He is here to listen to what I have to say. The Great Spirit made us both. He gave us lands. You came in here, we gave you those lands and received you as brothers." He actually told the audience that his meetings with the Grant administration didn't go as well as he wanted. For example, he had wanted a military fort removed from Wyoming, but Grant had told him no. He then told the audience, "Look at me. I am poor and naked, and yet I am the chief of the nation. We do not ask for riches. We do not want them. But we do want our children properly brought up. Riches bring us no good. We can't take them with us into the other world, and all we want is love and peace." It was an incredible performance by Red Cloud. The speech was positively received, both in the hall and outside of it. Under the headline, "Red Cloud's Triumph," the New York Tribune called his talk one of the most exciting incidents in the history of the Aboriginal race. The New York Times compared the speech to a poem and commented favorably on his earnest manner, his impassioned gestures, the eloquence of his hands, and the magnetism which he evidently exercises over an audience. While Red Cloud had achieved some meaningful political concessions in Washington, D.C., his public relations victory in New York City appeared to be even a greater accomplishment for his people. The Western papers viewed the achievement differently, however. As Red Cloud and his delegation returned home, the Cheyenne leader sarcastically remarked, "Lo, the conquering hero comes. He shaketh off the noxious dust of civilization and longs for the war paint of his people." In the weeks after Red Cloud and his party returned home, both sides seemed to think that the visit had gone well. The Grant administration now believed that the Lakota were committed to peace. And Red Cloud was happy that he was going to have to move to the Missouri River. He'd eventually receive his own agency in what is today northwest Nebraska. President Grant summed things up when he said, "My policy is peace. When I said, 'Let us have peace,' I meant it." Sadly, though, things would soon change. That same year, in 1870, financiers agreed to construct the Northern Pacific Railway that was going to pass through or near Lakota territory. A year later, in 1871, surveyors, along with members of the U.S. Army, went out to the Yellowstone Valley to begin planning to construct a road through that area. This ran them straight into conflict with Sitting Bull and his more independent-minded Lakota. This group is often referred to as non-agency or hostile Indians, as opposed to Red Cloud and Spotted Tails groups, which were often referred to as agency Indians, where they were maybe more settled down than Sitting Bull's group that preferred to not have to deal with the American government whatsoever. So this conflict between Sitting Bull's group and the Grant administration will be the subject of future videos on this channel. So I'd like to thank you for listening today to the American Discovery channel, and looking forward to having more for you in the near future. Thank you.